Hey guys, just a reminder, my online course is Birth Story Academy, and you can enroll in it at birthstory.com. It's taught by me. You can be in your jammies. It's online. It's pre-recorded, and it has a ton of freebies and downloads. It's everything that you need to prepare for your hospital birth. So hope to see you in Birth Story Academy. If you did not listen to the previous episode, which is a replay of Gina Conley from Mamaste Fit's first two birth stories, then I would love it if you just push pause and go back to the previous episode because I'm replaying that first. And then today we pick up where we left off 3 years later. Turns out that Gina had two more birth stories to share, and she wrote a book, Training for Two. And the platform of Mamaste Fit is shifting to a professional membership. So we dug into what the growth of the company is, and also these last two birth stories where, in her words, she really completed her motherhood journey. And they're both home births, and they're quite beautiful. And I hope that you enjoy it. Okay, let's get to it. What does a contraction feel like? How do I know if I'm in labor? And what does a day of labor look like? Wait, is this normal? Hey, I'm Heidi. My best friends call me Hides. I'm a certified birth doula, host of this podcast, and author of Birth Story, an interactive pregnancy guidebook. I have supported hundreds of women through their labor and deliveries, and I believe every one of them and you deserves a microphone and a stage. So here we are. Listen each week to get answers to these tough questions. Birth Story, where we talk about pregnancy, labor, deliveries, where we tell our stories and share our feelings. And of course, chat about our favorite baby products and motherhood. And because I'm passionate about birth outcomes, you will hear from some of the top experts in labor and delivery. Whether you are pregnant, trying desperately to get pregnant, or you just love a good birth story, I hope you will stick around and be part of this birth story family. Hey, Gina, welcome back to the Birth Story podcast. It has been 3 years since we had our last conversation that the audience was able to hear again in the previous episode, and a lot has changed in your life in the last 3 years.
So there's been a lot going on. 2 more babies and more stuff with my business. So I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, well, Mamaste Fit is definitely growing. It has grown significantly over the last couple of years. And before we dig into your two birth stories, since your previous two birth stories, let's talk about your book and Mamaste Fit and your online offerings. I'd love to hear all about how your business has changed and grown over the last 3 years.
So just with our social media platform, that has really skyrocketed in the past 3 years. I think when we last talked, we were probably at like maybe 100,000 followers on Instagram. Now we're like almost at 400, which is like pretty awesome. And it's been all organic growth. So just people that were interested in what we have to say. And so that's been incredibly exciting and connecting with so many families over the years who have said like some of the content that we have shared have like changed their lives to really improve their experiences has been really, really rewarding. And so from all that, I decided that I would like to write a book. And so I wrote my book, Training for Two, which is all about how you can use prenatal fitness to support a strong pregnancy, to feel more comfortable during your pregnancy because pain is not a requirement, and also to help you prepare for birth and for the postpartum. And so the book incorporates a lot of like movement modifications that you can do throughout your pregnancy, whether you want lifting modifications or if you want like pelvic pain modifications. It also incorporates a lot of movements that you can do to help prepare for birth. So to create more space within your pelvis based on common areas that tend to hold a little bit more tension than others, just based on common postural tendencies that we have. And there's a whole chapter on labor, so laboring positions, different movements that you can do to create more space within your pelvis. And then there's a whole chapter on early postpartum recovery. So essentially takes you from conception all the way to like first month postpartum. with a big movement focus. We obviously have our online childbirth education course that dives way deeper into kind of the science of birth and what to do during your labor. But this book is really focused on the movement aspect of it. And what's really cool about the book is there's pictures in it, it's full color, it's got written descriptions for all the exercises, and they have QR codes to videos, which is really nice. And I learned better from like watching a video and exploring in my body. And so I was excited to be able to incorporate that within the book. And so that was a labor of love. That was in between my two next babies. I wrote it, and then it was released after my fourth baby was born, like a few weeks after she was born. So 2024 was a really exciting time of birth, both with baby and book for us. And it's been really fun to see how this has helped us reach a new audience. And so now we're also expanding to offer more professional mentorship, or we have more like one-on-one engagement with professionals. Because our platform has grown so large, we're having a harder time kind of keeping up with our DMs and offering that free advice and mentorship to folks, because there's just so many people communicating with us. And so we've decided that we need to shift to a paid community. We're still going to offer tons of free content, but for folks that want like that individual attention from us, we're going to have a paid community for families in addition for our professional mentees, so that we can offer that support in a way that's more accessible for us, honestly. So it's really exciting to see how much our business has grown. I'm excited to see where it's going to be 3 years from now. I won't hopefully have any more babies between now and then. So I don't know if I'll have another birth story to share, but I am excited to share my most recent two birth stories.
Yeah, well, you are always welcome to come back in 3 years and just tell me about like the continued birth of the businesses here. Now, did you write the book with your sister also, who you have the company Mamaste Fit with?
No, we originally had planned on writing it together, but the movement aspect of Mamaste Fit is definitely more of like kind of my bread and butter. So I ended up just kind of exclusively writing it by myself. We would love to get like future like publishing deals where we can write a book all about like childbirth education, where she'll probably have a little bit more of a role in. But when it comes to like the movement specific stuff, that's good. That's more like my wheelhouse. So I wrote the book by myself.
Yeah. And if you guys haven't listened to the previous episode, then you should go back and start there. But her sister Roxanne is a labor and delivery nurse, or was a labor and delivery nurse. So really brings that kind of science perspective to this also. I'm really excited to read your book. I'm really excited for this audience to just kind of know about it. I mean, as a birth doula now for 22 years, for me, movement is everything. Movement, proper breathing techniques, I would say hydration and nutrition. Those are some of like the key components that I see making a huge difference in positive birth outcomes. So I'm really excited for your book and definitely moving to a professional mentorship. So congratulations on all your organic growth and in the middle of motherhood. So
Thank you.
but so one time I was listening to this podcast, and the authors were talking about how often book ideas just kind of come to you. And there was this thought that if you don't write the book, someone else is going to write the book. And authors will talk about there's this sense of urgency once you get the message. There's a sense of urgency to get the content out. And I was just wondering what this looked like for you, because you did this in between the two babies. So where were you? What were you doing? Like, when did this idea come to you, and what made you act on it right then, like with young children at home?
So we actually had a publisher reach out to us, and I thought it was a scam at first, like some dude was trying to get all my money kind of thing, like some Nigerian prince. And so I almost just deleted the email, but then I was like, well, let me just see. This seems kind of legit. And it ended up being legit. So it was an actual publisher that was looking to have a prenatal fitness book published by their brand. And the ones that they've done in the past just like really didn't hit well. And they saw our online presence, they saw how engaged our audience was, and they were like, we think that you're the perfect person for this. Like, you seem to be aligned with what we're doing. And their section within the publisher was really focused on like health and wellness books and like kind of self-help books. And so they reached out to me, and I was like, sure, sounds like a great opportunity. I've always wanted to be an author, even from like being a little kid. I like wish that that was something that I could do. I just didn't know how I was going to go about it. And so it was kind of nice for it to kind of just like fall in my lap. I didn't have to like pitch to publishers. I didn't have to get an agent. They just kind of came to me. So folks will ask me like, how did you get the book deal? And I'm like, they gave it to me. I'm sorry, I don't actually know how to do that. But I do know a lot about the process of writing a book. And it took about like 18 months from start to finish with going through like writing the manuscript. So the manuscript portion took about, I think, like 10 months to do. So we got the book deal in like February. And then right around Thanksgiving, the manuscript was due. And there was like little junctions along the way where I had to submit a certain amount each time. I also like, I'm very wordy. So I had way too many words. And so we did up my words a little bit, but I still had to cut like a whole chapter, which I was like, but it's important. And that was also another reason why Roxanne was no longer going to be an author on the book, was because I already had so much that I wanted to include that was really specific to the movement aspect, that we would not have been able to include information on childbirth and stuff within it too. And so we really just kind of like honed down on this is movement specific to prenatal fitness. After the manuscript was done, there was like a whole editing process that took like another like 8 months, where we were going back and forth with editors, like making revisions. And then there was like a whole process of taking all the photos and filming all the videos and kind of all like the design aspect of it. And so the book was completed, I think, in like May of last year, and then it was released in September, which was pretty exciting. We had a pretty successful pre-order launch. The book is doing well, which is really exciting. I'm not like a New York Times bestseller, I think, because it's like a really niche type of book. But it's still really exciting. It was a very long process. I don't think folks realize how long it takes to write a book, and how long it takes to go through like the editing process and the design process. But it was a really long experience. It was, I don't want to say fun because it was like it was very hard. But I learned a lot from it, and I hope that I have other opportunities in the future to write future books around this phase of life. But it was a cool experience.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Well, I already see like all of the places you could go with just the title. Like this one's training for two, but then there's like nutrition for two, and there's childbirth for two. I mean, VBAC for two. There's a million places you could go with this brand. So, and you said it just sort of fell into my lap. And I would say, Gina, no, it did not. You worked so hard for it to fall into your lap, So, well, that's a birth story in and of itself. And so I will link.
It really is.
Yeah, I'm going to link in the show notes how people can follow you if they're not already. And then, of course, buy the book so that they can tell all their friends about it and give it to everybody at their baby showers and all of the different things.
I mean, it's a good baby shower gift. Like,
yeah.
If you got any friends that are in pain, let me tell you, they're going to find some relief in those exercises.
Everybody's in pain who's pregnant. Are you kidding me? Like, as a doula, my entire like text messaging feed every single day is like, my hips hurt, my pelvic floor hurts, my shoulder hurts from sleeping on it wrong. I'm like, okay, let's tackle one of these at a time. As a doula and a birth worker in the field, I do continue to learn a ton from Mamaste Fit. So thank you for doing what you do. Now, we left the audience on a cliffhanger because last time we recorded, you were pregnant and we were talking about the uncertainty of baby number 3. So it was like, you were like, our active labors are 3 hours or less, and we talked about how number 3 can be a wild card. It can go the same. It can go much faster. It can go much longer. And so I wanted to dig in right there. And I want to hear the birth story for your third child and kind of how it went down as a home birth.
So it was another home birth. So just as a recap for the previous two, my first birth was in a hospital. I had an epidural, and then my second birth was my first home birth, and it was an incredibly empowering experience. And so I was planning for the same for my third, and I had the same midwife. I was in a different house. We did move to a new home, and I was feeling like super ready. And in hindsight, when I look back on the preparation for that labor and the navigating that birth, there was this really big desire to perform. I wanted to show everybody how I could do it. In between this birth and my previous one, my sister gave birth to her son, and she had this like super serene, like very peaceful, like it was like noon, the sun was shining through the window. She like gently pulls her baby up out of the water and brings him to her chest. And I'm like, I want to do that. I want to have a serene birth. That will be me. I'm going to have that. It's going to be great. And I had a lot of like expectations in my head of what I wanted my birth to look like. I mean, at this point, I had been a doula for like 6 years. I had seen so many births that were incredibly impairing. I have seen photos from births. And so I just had this like image in my head that I wanted. I wanted my husband to be behind me in the birth pool. He didn't want to be in the pool. Okay, you're going to be behind me outside the birth pool, and the photographer is going to be right in front of me. And I'm going to pull the baby up and bring her into my chest. And it's going to be this beautiful photo. And so in hindsight, I recognize that that's what happened. And so I think that caused me to take a long time to go into labor. And so I hit 40 weeks and I was like, well, surely she's going to come soon. I'm giving birth at home. I feel so comfortable. This is going to be amazing. And then I hit 41 weeks and I was like, girl, where are you? For my first labor, I went into labor at 41 and 3. And I attributed that to being really stressed out about the possibility of an induction. And so then for my next labor, I went in at 41 and 1 or 40 and 1, which I was much more relaxed about. And so I was like, I'm going to go into labor at like 38 weeks because I'm so relaxed. I am just so chill. I was like 41 and 3 when I went into labor again. In my state, you have to be less than 42 weeks to give birth at home, like with a licensed midwife. You can do it with like unlicensed midwives, but my midwife was a CNM. She was licensed, and I also don't know if I would have particularly felt super comfortable beyond 42 weeks as well. And so at 41 and 2, I go to my midwife. I have my 41-week appointment that we were confident I would not be making it to. And I'm like, hey, I'm starting to feel like a little bit more anxious about the fact that I'm still pregnant and I'm just getting closer and closer to this 42-week mark. I know I still got like 5 days to go, but I just do not want to find myself pregnant at 42 weeks and having to transfer my care to the hospital. So we did NSDs to make sure baby girl was doing well. And we also did a membrane sweep because I was like, if this will just kickstart it, let's just do it. And it did. And so the next day I did end up going into labor. I had some like prodromal labor that night. I was having them like every 8 minutes. And then it fizzled off after like I alerted the whole team. And then I was like, oh, just kidding. But then the next morning at like 7 a.m. or it was like maybe it was a little bit earlier than that. My timing is a little bit off. I woke up to very distinct labor contractions. And every time I'm actually in labor, it's like a very clear, and I know, okay, this is labor. This was not the prodromal stuff. Like it's always a very clear type of contraction for me. It's always like really deep within my pelvis. It's almost this like burning, pulling sensation. And it's just like a really distinct sensation. And I was like, today is the day. Let's do it. And so all of my early labors tend to just be like really long. It just takes a long time for it to build up. And I always wake up in labor every time, even in the fourth one, I woke up in labor, but then my labor doesn't really pick up until the evening. And so I just spend the whole day in this early labor pattern. But I was like, who knows? Maybe it's going to be like right away. Also, it was a hurricane. We were in the middle of a hurricane. So maybe that is what kickstarted it for me. So I kind of labor in my house with like my family. We're getting everything set up. I'm like pretty confident today's the day. But because the storm is starting to get worse, and we live in North Carolina, and so when hurricanes hit our area, like trees go down, roads are sometimes not safe, power goes out. And so all my birth team decided they were going to come kind of on the early side because they didn't want to drive in the dark on like back roads and stuff during a storm. And I was like, cool. But then I had like a bunch of people staring at me, like waiting for things to happen. And I, again, had that desire to perform where I was like, well, they're all here and I'm wasting all their time. Like, I need to try to get things going. And so then I'm getting stressed out because I feel like everyone's waiting on me, which was not a realistic pressure. Like nobody cared. They were all like happy to be there. They're like eating and hanging out. And nobody was like bothering me, but I just felt like I needed to do something. And so around like 5 p.m., I did some like inversions because I was like, well, maybe her head position's a little bit off, and that seemed to kind of really shift things for me as well. I was doing some like nipple stimulation, and that was starting to bring stuff a little bit closer together. And so I started to shift into a little bit more of like an early active labor pattern. So like not quite there, but contractions were definitely getting closer, and I was starting to feel myself starting to shift. Like, and this was in like the late afternoon, like evening time. And for my son's birth, so my second labor, my daughter, my oldest, Adeline, was like very involved, like really wanted to be around me the whole time. And so I anticipated that she was going to be like my mini midwife. She like could not care less. Like she was like, "Is the baby here?" And I was like, "No." And she's like, "Bye," and then would leave. And so I was like, "What the heck? Like I thought you were going to be super into this again." Because she wanted to like catch the baby and like during my pregnancy had expressed like a big desire to be like a really involved part, but she began to realize that labor is really boring. And she got bored. But my son, who was 2 at the time, was like really attentive to me. Like he was like holding my leg with every contraction as I moved around the house. He was like holding my hand, and so he was like my mini doula and like really involved. And this was like a trend in my next labor where my next youngest was like my mini doula, and my son and my daughter like could not care. They were like, whatever.
Aw, well, they each got their
um,
turn. Oh,
and the youngest child who was about to be no longer the youngest was like very emotionally involved with the labor, which was like really fun. So he's kind of like laboring with me, like hanging out with me, and then all the power goes out and I am distraught.
oh
And I am
no.
like, "Oh my god, I love the shower. And if the electric's out, I'm not going to be able to like have a hot shower." And so I am like internally and externally spiraling. And my midwife is like, "It's fine. Women have given birth for thousands of years without electricity." And I was like, "Nancy, I don't care." Like I live in 2022
Yeah.
and I want hot water in my shower. And my husband was like, "Hey, our water heater is gigantic. You will not run out of hot water before the power comes back on." And so I'm just like sobbing, like my labor's not progressing anymore. I'm not gonna have hot water. We have a gas stove, and so they were just heating up water and putting it in the pool. It really wasn't that big of a deal. And then the power turned back on. But in the moment, I was like, the world is ending. um, so I continue to labor and just doesn't feel like it's like going anywhere. And so my midwife offers to do a cervical exam at this point to, maybe we can see what's going on. I could do another sweep to see if that picks things up. And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like it's dark now. My labor, I'm still not in active labor. I would like this to continue to progress. So we did a sweep. At the time, I think I was like 3 or 4 centimeters. So my dilation really hadn't changed a whole ton. We did a sweep. I took some tinctures and then I like chugged some castor oil because I was like, we're gonna do it all because we're gonna get this going. I do not want to
Mhm.
be in labor until like 3 days from now. I was like really like exaggerated with my time frame. Um, Also, just as like a side note, and this will be important later, my family has this weird pattern with some dates. And so it's my mom's birthday is the 26th um, of September. And my parents' anniversary is October 4th. And then my brother-in-law's birthday is October 8th. And then my dad's birthday is the 12th. So we needed something on September 30th. And this was September 30th. So I'm in
To
labor on
be
September
4
30th.
days.
And so it would have completed the pattern. And earlier in my pregnancy, my dad was like, "Just so you know," because my due date was around this time, September 30th is a really good due date, which was again 41 and 3. I was like, you son of a bitch, shut the fuck up. I will not be in labor at that time because I would have already had a baby by 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's September 30th. This is like the perfect date. And it was also one of my best friends, her son's, it was like the anniversary of him getting some cord blood. So it was kind of like his second rebirth. He had infant leukemia. So this was like his new birth date because he like got reborn with his new cord blood. And so it would have been like a really special day. Sophie is a really feisty toddler, and she was like, I will not be born on September 30th. So we do the sweep, we do the tinctures. It's like 9 p.m. at this point. I'm like, I got like 3 hours to get this baby out to have that September 30th. I do the castor oil, and things pick up really quickly after that. Like it was a really quick transition into active labor. And historically, my active labors are like 3 hours. And so I'm like, we're going to make it. It'll be great. I'm doing my nipples stimulation and breast pumping. Labor is progressing. And I'm like, all right, I think I'm getting ready to start pushing. I want to get back in the tub. Prior to this, we had put a hypothermia blanket on top of the tub to help keep the heat in. You would think that's a great idea. Like hypothermia blankets keep you really warm. So we put that on. It had kind of sunk a little into the water. And if you didn't know, what really helps to keep hypothermia blankets warm is there's this like filling in it that's almost like the consistency of a diaper. So we take the blanket off because I'm like, I'm going to start pushing. I would like to get in the pool. And my whole thing is I want a water birth because I didn't get one of my first, obviously, because I was in the hospital. My second, my birth pool was like on the other side of my house because I was very poor planning with my labor setup. I had the birth pool in my kitchen, but I was primarily laboring in my bedroom. Hindsight would have put it in my bedroom, but anyway, so this time it's in my bedroom. That birth pool is like 2 feet from my bed. And so I'm like, I was really adamant that I really wanted a water birth. So we take the blanket off, and the filling of this blanket has filled the pool. And it's like this thick layer of like sludge across the top. And at first, like my sister and a birth assistant are like, it's fine. And they try to scoop it out, and it just like disintegrates between their fingers. And I'm just standing at the edge of the pool looking into it like, oh my God. I cannot give birth in this. Like, this is toxic.
Yeah,
and so
it
everyone
is.
is like, oh my God. And this is at like 11:30 p.m. So we're like almost at midnight. And so like I just like sit on the bed and I'm just like and I like stop my labor. I'm like my contractions totally space out, and I take like a nap in sorrow as my team frantically empties the pool and refills it. And a few hours prior to this, my mom was like adamant that we needed to get like a pump for the pool to empty it quickly. And everyone was like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, you're like really making, like, she was making like a scene about it. And they were like, you're really distracting for Gina right now. You need to stop. But if you want to get it, go get it. So thankfully she went and got that because they were quickly able to like empty this toxic sludge out of the birth pool. They run it outside and they clean it, and then they bring it back inside. Now, remember, I had a vision that my husband was going to be behind me in the corner of the birth pool. And so we have the birth pool pushed up into the corner. When I initially filled it, I made sure there was enough space for him. I did not tell anybody else this vision. And so they pushed it all the way into the corner. My husband is double my size. He's like 250 pounds. He's a large man. And earlier in my labor, he was squeezing my hips, and he made a comment asking how much longer I thought this was going to be because his chest was getting fatigued, and it was like fire darts shooting out of my eyes. And he was like, I am not going to complain for the rest of my life.
Oh
So
gosh, this
they
is
fill
so
up the
funny,
pool.
Gina.
My labor starts to progress. I am like, I know I need to start pushing. And so I get in the water. And now it's like it's a little bit after midnight. We have surpassed the threshold of 9:30. Sophie ruined it. The birth pool ruined it. If the birth pool was good, she would have been born on the 30th because I was like ready to start pushing.
That is a
So I
lot
get
of
back in-
performance anxiety, like a lot to try to like nail it on a specific day. And I'm thinking
There's a
about all
lot.
these things that are going on as you're
Yeah.
telling the story. And
It's a really fun story to tell.
it is, but the opposite
So
of serene
yeah,
at that.
so it's yeah, not serene at all. So I get back in the pool and I'm like, all right, let's resume. I'm ready to start pushing my baby out. And I'm starting to feel like ready to go. And I'm like, you get in the fucking corner because I want that photo of me pulling my baby out of my chest with you in the corner behind me. And so my gigantic husband is squeezing himself into this corner. Like he cannot fit in it. He cannot kneel behind it. He's in like this weird squat. It would have been a horrible photo. It would have been, he was like in a weird squatting position. And my sister was like, do you want to move? And he's like, nope. This is where Gina wants me. This is where I will stay. So I start pushing, and I think I do like 2 pushes. I am not quiet. It is not serene. I am out of my mind. Every time I push, I am just like the world. Oh no. Before I start pushing, I'm like, I have to go to the bathroom. And my sister was like, it's your baby, Gina. And I was like, no, Mia, I took castor oil 3 hours ago. It is not my baby. It is liquid shit that needs to come out of my body. And I'm not shitting in the birth pool that we just cleaned. So I scurry over to the bathroom because I know I'm like, I'm going to start pushing soon. I sit on the toilet. I immediately regret the desire to sit down on the toilet, and I stand up and just liquid shit down my legs. I am like, I don't care. It is not in the pool. My sister, who's a labor and delivery nurse, is following me as I'm like, I'm going to start pushing, cleaning my legs off with like a wash. So she's like crawling, like trying to clean it up. She's like cleaning the floor as we go. Fortunately, it all came out really quickly. It was mostly in the bathroom, like in the general area of the toilet. But at this point, I get in the pool and I'm like, all right, now I'm ready to start pushing. And I start pushing. I do about 2 pushes. My husband squeezed in the corner, and the baby's heart rate, so my daughter's heart rate was like super low. And so my midwife asked me to get out of the pool so I can get on the bed. And after the fact, I kind of was like really sad about that. Or in the moment, I was also really sad about it because I did not want to move. After like conversations with my midwife, she's like, hey, like sometimes when their heart rates are really low, like we have to do some resuscitation, and it's much easier to do it on the bed versus like trying to do it in the water. And so like, and you still had a little bit to go before. It wasn't like she was going to be out in one push. Like you pushed like 2 more times on the bed. So we get on the bed, and I'm like, I accept this is my fate. I literally don't care anymore. I just want this baby out of me because pushing is like the most intense part of labor. It's all like really cool in hindsight, but in the moment, I'm like, oh God, I have regrets. So I push 1 more time, and then I feel her starting to crown. And so I'm like, I am not going to tear, and I'm just going to slow down and let my body do the thing. And so my sister's like, she's barely crowning. And I'm like, I don't fucking care. Like, I'm not going to tear. Um, and I like slowly, like, let her kind of ease out. It's not like it's not gentle at all. I am like in like it is very obvious that I am in discomfort at this point. I push her out again with my son. After his head was born, his whole body just flew out. Like it was so fast. So my daughter's head was born, and then we all sat there, and I was like, my hands are like down between my legs, like, oh.
Right.
Why are you still inside me? Ah! And then like the next contraction, like her shoulders came out, and then she came all the way out. And I was
Yeah.
with that pause, I was like, what are you
Oh
doing
my
down there?
God.
She came to my chest. It was my daughter and my son were both like really excited. They were both like there the whole time. They were like in the water with me. At one point, my mom, like, I wanted the kids in the pool with me because I think I saw a picture of somebody doing that, and like they wanted to be in the water too. And so my mom like placed my son like between my legs when I was pushing, and I was like, he needs to move. He is not catching my baby. Like he is not catching the baby. So they just kind of shifted him to the side of me. But then when I got out of the pool, they both just followed me like to the bed. Yeah, Sophie was born, and it was a pretty smooth postpartum. I didn't tear at all. Like all my postpartums have been like pretty smooth since my first was probably the hardest one. This one was like even easier than my son's postpartum, which I would have thought like after 3 it would get worse, but it feels like it gets easier because there's even though I put a lot of pressure on myself for the birth, I don't put any pressure on myself for postpartum. And so I am just like really cool with just resting and just taking my time and being patient with the process. But I did not feel done. Like I felt like I wanted one more baby. And I like cried about it like my whole postpartum, like for the first like 2 weeks where I was like, you need to tell me that we can have one more baby, otherwise I'm gonna not mentally survive. And my husband was like, Jesus, fine. Like I was
Oh.
like, okay, it doesn't actually have to happen, but I just need you to tell me that it's a possibility. He was like, I mean, I'm excited to have more children, but like I really thought we were just gonna have two and just move on with our lives, but okay. So after about 18 months, we decided like, hey, it's time to start trying. I was 36 at this point with Zoe. And my whole thing with my husband was like, he doesn't want to be like 40 and have a baby. Which I mean, we still had a lot of time. Like that would have been a huge gap. like we had several years to go. So he's like, if you want to have a fourth kid, we need to do it like now. And I was like, cool, let's do it. So in between my first two kids, I had two losses. And so my pregnancy with my son was like, I had so much anxiety and I had a lot of postpartum anxiety with him as well. And I didn't have as much. I think I just had like a normal amount of anxiety. Maybe I just had general anxiety after my daughter. And hers really revolved around like this chapter is ending and I feel really sad about this chapter ending. But then when my husband was like, "Well, we can have a fourth," I was like, "Cool, I feel great. I can delay this another period of time." So around the 18-month mark, we decided, okay, we're ready for another baby. And each pregnancy since my son, I have felt more confident and at peace with the process, with the potential of loss. And but because I've had two successful pregnancies, it wasn't as overwhelming. And so if anybody has had multiple pregnancy losses, the first pregnancy after loss for me was the hardest one mentally because I was just like scared of everything bad happening and I had a really hard time connecting with that baby and with that pregnancy until like the very end. But each one after that has felt much more like positive from the beginning for me and I felt like I could connect much quicker and I think it was just like I had successful pregnancies and so I just felt more confident that it was a possibility again for me and that I like if I had a loss it still would totally suck and it would probably make the next pregnancy really hard but the more I had since the loss the less scary it became for me but each milestone was still like kind of produced anxiety for me so like that first ultrasound and then like the next ultrasound that we had or like that blood test that we had or this everything kind of still made me anxious but it wasn't as bad during Zoe's pregnancy.
And I was going to say,
With
Gina, right there, you were so vulnerable on your platform too. So
yeah
you announce your pregnancies really early, you bring your whole community in. And I think it's really beautiful that you guys have always had this sort of like mindset with your platform. Like, if we're going to have this healthy pregnancy, we're having it together as a community. And if we have a loss, we're having it together as a community too. And not everyone can do that. And I think that that was really vulnerable of you. Yeah.
it was something that I found really helpful for me after my losses between my first two children was to have people that knew I was pregnant and then also had a loss because I had people to lean on when I was grieving. And we also had time to celebrate that little life for the period of time that we had. Like it would have totally sucked to like have never had any sort of excitement for that baby. And so that was something that I kind of kept on like doing with each of my pregnancies and I think there's a lot of stigma with pregnancy loss and I don't want people to feel like they did anything wrong or that there's anything to be ashamed about if you have a pregnancy loss like it's uncomfortable for other people to see somebody grieving, but it doesn't mean like it's shameful. And so I'm pretty vocal about my losses and how I felt about them and announcing pregnancies early because I don't want other people to feel alone and an experience that usually is pretty isolating. Um, but yeah, so the my fourth pregnancy and my final pregnancy, I thought I was gonna feel more sadness about it being the last time, but I actually felt like a lot at peace with it because I felt complete. Like I was like, this is the final one. But I feel like it's a good ending for me. I continued to exercise throughout the pregnancy. It was pretty like low complications, like nothing really like scary was going on. Pretty straightforward, and but I felt just so much more like relaxed about it. Like I didn't really have like this desire to perform. I really felt myself like truly surrender to whatever pregnancy and labor needed to be, where I was like, you know what? If I go early, I go early. If I go super late, oh well. And I kind of told myself, like, I'm probably just gonna go late because that seems to be my trend. Like, I'm just gonna go late, like whatever. And so I just like didn't have this pressure on myself. And I wanted a water birth, but I was like, well, if I don't get it, it's not that big of a deal. Like, oh well, like if like whatever happens in my labor is whatever happens. Like, and I kind of had that approach throughout my whole pregnancy. So towards the end of my pregnancy, I we were recording like these weekly pregnancy updates where I would just say like how I was feeling, and Roxanne would give like medical and like not advice but like stuff on like what to expect during this week of pregnancy. And we had a plan to film it all the way to like 41 weeks. And we thought that I would just film it for 41 weeks because that's how long I stay pregnant. I actually went into labor at 39 weeks, and I was like,
Yahoo!
so I had prodromal labor for about a week before, and prior to this, like back in like June, I think, I did a star chart reading with this lady. And I am not super into astrology and all that stuff, but I think it's really interesting. Like I'm into it in regards to I'm interested in it, but I'm not into it in that I understand it. So I cannot explain anything. So I apologize to any of our astrology people that are like going to be offended by how I explain this. So she was like, she was like, what questions do you have for me? I was like, when am I going to go into labor? Let me know. And she was like, oh, well, let me look at your chart. Well, on this weekend in August, the moons are going to be aligned to your mother planet stuff or channels. And so I think you're going to go into labor on this week. It's going to start really slow and then it's going to go really fast. And I was like, cool. I'm putting it in my calendar. And so I told my midwife this. I was like, I did a star chart reading. She said I was going to go into labor on this weekend. And she was like, oh, well, let me write it down for you. I'm going to put it in my calendar. I went into labor that weekend.
So cool.
um, so my brother's birthday is August 23rd, and my due date was like August 26th or something like that. And so the week prior, I was having a lot of prodromal labor where it was like it was happening, and I like kind of thought maybe something was starting, but I knew deep down that it wasn't labor. But I was like, well, maybe it'll turn into labor. And so I was like alerting my team like constantly. And I felt like the boy who cried wolf or the girl who cried labor.
Yeah.
But I was like, whatever. Like I paid you all to support me so you can listen to me like back or not like false start you. And then the morning of the 23rd, I woke up and I was like, this is labor. I am in labor. Like it was the same distinct contractions. I woke up to them. And it just felt like it was like a really sunny day. I felt like really just at peace with what was going on. But like literally everybody had something going on that morning. And so I was like, well, I'm gonna give birth all by myself. Like my husband had like a range that he needed to go to, which was close by. My sister had like kindergarten orientation that day. And I think my mom was like gardening or something. So everybody had stuff that they needed to like finish up before they can come over. And they would have all like ditched whatever they were doing and came over sooner, but I was like, it's fine. And I also had a massage at like 1 o'clock. So I was like, well, I'll just kind of like do my own thing here until like you all get done with your stuff. And so I was just kind of like laboring around my house, but things just like weren't really progressing because I had 3 children running around me. And I also like did not want things to progress by myself. Like I was like I was jokingly texting my husband like, "Oh, my contractions are closer. Like I guess I'm gonna have this baby by myself." And he was like, "Please just let me know if you need me to come back." So everyone got done with all their stuff around noon, and I was finding myself feeling really frustrated because things just like weren't getting closer together. Like they were kind of staying at like 6 to 8 minutes apart. Like occasionally they get a little bit closer, but then we kind of space back out to like that like 6 to 8 minute apart time frame. And so I was frustrated that things weren't progressing, but I also like wasn't really in a space that I could kind of drop in to labor. So my husband got home, my sister like was not over yet, but my mom had come over and I was like, I'm leaving for my massage. And I go to my massage, contractions are still pretty spaced out. And I'm just like, Catherine, who's the massage therapist in our gym, I'm like, I just need to zone out and just be in my own place. I'm not here to have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And so she gave me a massage. She was like pressing in all my acupressure points. I think it was like a 90-minute massage. I like really spoil myself during pregnancy where I do like every other week I get a massage. And then during this phase of my pregnancy, I'm like weekly. I deserve it. So
Yes,
I
you
think this week I
do.
actually had like 2 massages. um, so I finished the massage up and during it I had like a few like stronger ones, but they were like still really spaced out. And on my drive home, I was like vocalizing and I was like, uh, so I text my sister and I'm like, things have really picked up. And so she was still at kindergarten orientation, thinking like they were gonna go get ice cream and just have this chill day, even though Gina's in labor. So she like picks up her 5-year-old and is like sprinting across the courtyard, thinking like my baby's about to fall out of me. And makes it to the house, and I'm just like, "What's up?" Sorry, it picked up, but then it like didn't really go anywhere. So I like kind of alert my whole birth team and I start trying to do like similar stuff to what I did during my third birth to try to like get things going. And so I'm like doing nipple stimulation, I'm doing inversions, and it's just kind of staying at this like early active. It's like 4 minutes apart. Like just like it's just I'm just not able to like really drop into it. And at one point, like everyone shows up and they're all like talking to me because I'm kind of talking. And so they're like vibing off of me. And then as soon as like people leave, I like look at my sister. I'm like, I just need everyone to shut the fuck up. And she was like, Jesus, like, you were just having a very casual, friendly conversation with all of us. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm not gonna be an asshole. Like, I'm gonna engage people when they talk to me. Um, and so I realized I just needed some space and like I didn't really want to like be to perform for anybody. And so my husband and I went for a walk just around our neighborhood and things like we're picking up from that. I came home and I like went in the shower and things were just kind of like slowly picking up from that. And I again started to feel this like pressure of like, oh my God, everyone's here so early and I'm still not in labor. But like my pattern is as soon as I hit active, it goes kind of quick. And so my midwife was like really reassuring, where she was like, well, Gina, like whenever you go into labor, it goes fast. And like I'm an hour away. So I'd rather be here just in case.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that makes me feel better. I'm just gonna, I think once the sun sets at 8:30 p.m. is when the sun set. My labor's gonna shift. It's
Mm-hmm.
gonna really shift. And I like said this out loud. Like my kids are playing in the pool with me. I'm starting to vocalize during contractions, but it's still like I'm still very like engaging and present, like mentally in my space. And so sure, for sure, once the sun set, things like shifted for me. And all of the little labor mental tricks that I've done for my previous labors did not work at all. Because normally I'd be like, okay, my contraction's building. I'm gonna really focus on relaxing and deal with my like mindset stuff, and then it's gone. It's letting go. And it felt like very like really only the peak was like really hard. Like the rest was like not great, but it was like I could just really focus on pretending that my contractions were like 10 seconds long, and that was like a good mental trick for me, and it worked for my son's labor, it worked for my third child's labor, but for this one the entire contraction was like so intense and I was like, I cannot do my normal mental tricks. I was still coping well, my husband was still squeezing my hips, but I just like could not do the same stuff, and all I could do was like vocalize. And so I'd be in the pool and then I would get up and I'd go in the shower and then I get out of the shower and then I go back in the pool. And there was a point when we made it back into the shower, I think like the second time, where I was like, this baby's coming soon. But I had only been like in active labor for like maybe an hour at this point, maybe half an hour at this point. And I was like, but it's way too soon. Like I still got like at least 2 hours to go. Like I haven't had my 3 hour active labor yet. And so I just like said to my husband, I'm like, I think the baby's gonna come soon. I'm feeling more of that pressure and like more in my hips. And then I was like, I think I need a pee or a poo or something. Like I don't like I think I just need to go to the bathroom. And so my sister like hears me say this and she's like, are you sure you don't want to get in the pool? Because everyone else was like really anxious. about wanting to help me have a water birth. And so we used a sheet this time. The water was perfect temperature. And so we were like really adamant that the pool was going to be perfect. And like this wasn't like a huge pressure that I was putting on myself, but everyone else knew how important it was. And so they were like really like attentive to the pool. And so she's like, "Are you sure you don't want to get in the water? Like, you should get on the water." Because she was nervous that if I started pushing on the toilet, and I historically only push like 4 times before my baby falls out, that I would stay there. And so my midwife is like following with her little tray, and I'm like, "Get that tray out of here. I'm just gonna poop and then go in the water." So I sit down on the toilet and I hate the toilet during labor. I know some people can like totally relax and it's like an amazing place, the dilation station. For me, it's like just way too intense. Like I don't like sitting during labor. And so I sit down and I try to pee and then I immediately like break down and start like sobbing where I'm just like, this is so hard. I just want everyone to stop. And my husband, I'm just like mental breaking down. I'm having a little mentee bee. And my sister is like, "I think she's in transition."
Yep.
So I'm like, all right, well, I guess now it's time, now that I'm done sobbing, to get over to the pool. So at this point, I think it's maybe been like 30 minutes of being in a more active labor pattern. And so I get over to the pool, I labor there for like another like 20-ish minutes. And I'm like, all right, I think I need to push. It was like, I didn't like mentally say, let's push now. I just knew that that's what I needed to do. And so I felt like the urge to push. My children were like around the pool. I start pushing. My water has not broken at this point. My water usually breaks when I'm pushing. And so I'm like clawing at my sack, trying to get it to break because I'm like, I know once this breaks, the baby will come right out. And I did this with like every one of my labors. Like I'm just like flat cat clawing at this sack because I'm just like, why are you so thick? So the every push I had, I was like pushing, but like clawing at my amniotic fluid sac, and eventually it breaks. And I'm like, oh, finally, it broke. And I think I said that out loud because I'm just like in my own world. And I went from like really roaring with all my contractions to realizing that my baby's head was about to be born and completely like serened in and was like silent, which was really unlike my previous 2 labors. Prior to this, my children surrounding the pool heard me screaming and got scared. And so my mom kind of like ushered them out of the room. And then when my baby was born, they came running back in. My son claims that he was fine. He was not scared. He was like, I was not scared at all. And I was like, that's fine. Um, so I get like super serene and focused because I'm in the water and I realize that I'm the only person that can kind of help guide my baby. And so I like put my hand on her head and I'm just like trying to like slowly breathe her out. And I also am like, well, I don't want to tear. Like lidocaine sucks on your perineum and I would like to not. So I'm like trying to slowly breathe her out. But everyone thought that I was just like resting in between my contractions or my pushes. Except for my husband, who can see that the baby's head was being born, and my midwife, I think, was aware. But everyone else was just like, do do do, like Gina's resting. Um, so I uh, guide her head out, and I say, "The head's out." I'm like, "The head's out, the head's out, the head's out," and everyone is like, "Oh shit!" And my midwife is like, "You're doing such a great job." And at this point, I'm like, "I don't know what to do. I don't do this, guys. I don't normally I don't normally catch my babies." And so
In the
at this point,
water.
I'm like, what do I do now? Like the contraction's over. And I was also in like a weird kind of like kneeling position where like my butt was really close to the bottom of the pool. And so my sister was like trying to like encourage me to lean back, but I was just like super in the zone. And so my midwife helped me kind of guide her shoulders out, and I could like feel her shoulders kind of rotating, which was pretty neat. And then pulled her out and brought her to my chest and then just kind of stimulated her. She started crying. At that point, all my kids came running in. And so it was a really like beautiful conclusion to my childbearing years. And Postpartum, I didn't tear at all. The postpartum recovery was really similar to the previous ones, where I didn't put a lot of pressure on myself, was really focusing on just resting and kind of enjoying this newborn bubble. I thought I was going to be like much more sad about it being like the last time, but it felt like I felt very complete at that point. And so there wasn't this feeling of like longing for me to do it again, where I was like, oh, I'm glad that's done. And even now, I feel like really complete with the 4 kids. So we have A to Z with Adeline in the front. We have Owen, I guess his first name's actually Henry. Next, we have Sophie, and then now we have Zoe. So we have our A to Z babies. Someone like joked with me, like, well, what if you have a fifth? And I was like, they'll be double Z. I don't know. They're going to know that they were unplanned. And so it felt like a really beautiful conclusion to my childbearing years. I feel very complete with all 4 kids. There's no like, sometimes I get like a little bit of baby fever where I'm like, oh, like birth was so special. I would love to do it again and to be pregnant again and to have that experience again. But there's no like longing for like another child because I feel very good with the 4 that we have right now. And we feel very complete with our family. And so it's been a really fun journey from my first birth of feeling just like super confused and like clueless on what was going on and having like a borderline traumatic experience where people were just doing things to me and I really didn't get a lot of say in what was happening, to transitioning to a home birth with my son and like really just leaning into that and letting that be such a powerful experience for me, to learning, going from my 3rd birth to my 4th, where I was really learning how to surrender and just allow whatever needed to happen. And that kind of progression of things was really fun. It's fun to tell all of the stories together because you can see how they influenced one another. But yeah, so the last 2 birth stories.
Wow. And I mean, from where we left off in 2022, I mean, you said it beautifully. Like, I was able to watch the progression of your growth as a mother and learning that, getting to that place of full surrender and full serenity and full peace down to the head is out and kind of only really you are the most clued into that is even happening. So I think it is so beautiful. I am going to link in the show notes, you guys. Gina was so kind as to publish some little video snippets of her births. And so I can link to the Mamaste Fit Instagram with some of those video clips on the stories that she's told here today. And I want to circle back after all those beautiful stories and remind everybody that in between 3 and 4, Gina wrote this book, Training for 2. I mean, what an incredible feat. And so we want everyone to go and buy a copy of the book if you are pregnant, if you know someone who's pregnant, if you're going to a baby shower, because movement is key to a successful pregnancy and birth experience. And like you just heard Gina talk about, not tearing, all of this plays a huge role. If you are a professional in the birth world and you are seeking more of that intimate mentorship, then please join the professional mentorship with Mamaste Fit. And again, I'll link all of that in the show notes. So Gina, anything else you want to leave the audience with before we part ways?
No. So yeah, you can learn more from us. You can hear more from my personal motherhood journey on our Instagram page, on our YouTube channel. We have a podcast too that we do every Wednesday. It's just the Mamaste Fit podcast. Really, if you just type in Mamaste Fit in Google, it'll just list all the stuff that you can learn from us for free. We have a lot of paid courses too if you want to move throughout your pregnancy with daily workouts. We have our prenatal fitness programs. We got the postpartum fitness programs, childbirth education. So we offer a lot to help support you because we want everyone to have an empowering experience and move with confidence throughout this entire phase of life.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for being here again and coming on twice. And I really am so happy that I got to have like a front row seat to the conclusion of that first part of our story with 3 and 4. And I know the audience that's been following Birth Story podcast for a long time appreciates that too. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Birth Story. My goal is you will walk away from each episode with a clear picture of how labor and delivery might go, and that you will feel empowered by the end of your pregnancy to speak up, plan, and prepare for the birth you want, no matter what that looks like.